皆さん、こんにちは。みーさチャンネル資格ハンター編です。最新の英語ニュースを読み上げますので、英語の試験勉強やスキルアップにご活用ください。
Zelenskyy says Russia preparing to bombard Odessa. March 5th, 2022, 5:15 p.m. Update March 6th, 2022, 7:26 a.m. VOA News. Passengers, including people fleeing Russia's invasion of Ukraine, board a train as they leave the city of Odessa, Ukraine, March 4th, 2022. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said Sunday Russia is planning to bombard Odessa. Zelenskyy said in a televised statement that if that occurs, it will be a war crime, a historic crime. Zelenskyy spoke in Russian for part of the statement, urging Russians to choose between life and slavery in the time when it is still possible to defeat evil without irreparable losses. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Saturday that Ukrainian statehood is at risk if the country continues its current path. During a meeting with Aeroflot workers, Putin added that any no-fly zone over Ukraine would have colossal and catastrophic consequences not only for Europe but also the whole world. Photo gallery. In photos, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, March 6, 2022. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has criticized NATO for not imposing a no-fly zone, which the Western alliance says could escalate the conflict with Russia. U.S. President Joe Biden spoke Saturday night with the Ukrainian president. They talked about the work the United States, its allies, partners and private industry are doing to raise the cost of the war for Russia. Biden said his administration is ramping up security, economic and humanitarian aid to Ukraine and is working with Congress for more funding. Zelenskyy himself met virtually earlier Saturday with more than 300 people, including senators, some House members and aides, delivering a desperate plea to send more planes to help the country fight the Russian invasion, according to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. See also: latest developments in Ukraine, March 6th. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken conferred Saturday with Polish Foreign Minister Zbigniew Rau in Rzeszów, on the border with Ukraine. Blinken crossed into Ukraine briefly to meet Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba, who asked for more military assistance to defeat Russia. After the meeting with his Polish counterpart, Blinken reiterated at a news conference that the United States will defend every inch of NATO territory and announced the Biden administration is preparing to allocate an additional $2.75 billion in humanitarian aid for Ukrainian refugees. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, second left, meets with Moldovan Prime Minister Natalia Gavrilita, third right, at the Government House in Chisinau, Moldova, March 6, 2022. Blinken also praised Poland for assisting hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians who have fled their home country, saying, "The people of Poland know how important it is to defend freedom." Rau said, Poland will never recognize territorial changes brought about by unprovoked, unlawful aggression. While Zelenskyy has criticized NATO for not imposing a no-fly zone, Putin said during a meeting Saturday with Aeroflot workers that such a zone would have colossal and catastrophic consequences not only for Europe but also for the whole world. Additionally, Putin said he currently has no plans to declare martial law in Russia because martial law should be only introduced in cases where there is external aggression, adding, "We are not experiencing that at the moment, and I hope we won't." Russian President Vladimir Putin sits in the cockpit of an airplane simulator as he visits Aeroflot Aviation School outside Moscow, March 5, 2022. Blinken flew on to Moldova Saturday night to show support to the small country, which has its own breakaway region, as it takes in tens of thousands of refugees from Ukraine. On the ground, the Russians are dropping large bombs on the city of Chernihiv, north of the capital, Kyiv, a regional official said. Usually, this weapon is used against military industrial facilities and fortified structures, regional head Vyacheslav Chas told the Associated Press. But in Chernihiv, against residential areas. He posted a photo of what he said was an undetonated, a Soviet-designed 500-kilogram bomb. Aid to Ukraine. Ukraine says Russian forces are shelling evacuation routes from Mariupol, as well as the city itself, breaking a ceasefire that was to have gone into effect Saturday at 7 a.m. Universal Time Coordinated, as the southern coastal city continued to endure days of relentless aerial attacks. "We are simply being destroyed," Mayor Vadim Boychenko said of his city of nearly 450,000 people on his Telegram channel. Volnovakha, a southern city of about 21,000, also was targeted with Russian heavy artillery attacks during the temporary ceasefire, Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister Irina Vereshchuk said Saturday in a broadcast video. Russia's defense ministry, however, accused Ukrainian nationalists of preventing civilians from fleeing Mariupol, according to RIA, Russia's state-owned news agency. It cited no evidence to substantiate these claims. Despite its heavy shelling of Mariupol and Volnovakha, there were fewer Russian aerial and artillery attacks in Ukraine over the past 24 hours compared with previous days, the British Defense Ministry tweeted Saturday on day 10 of Russia's attack on its western neighbor. Ukraine Donetsk-Luhansk Crimea map. The ministry said Ukraine continued to control the northern cities of Kharkiv and Chernihiv, as well as Mariupol in the southeast. The ministry cited reports of street fighting in the northeastern city of Sumy and said it is highly likely that all four cities are encircled by Russian forces as they advance toward the southwestern city of Odessa. President Zelenskyy urged Ukrainians in areas occupied by Russian forces to take the battle to the invaders in a televised address Saturday night. "We must go outside and drive this evil out of our cities," he said. A shipment of satellite internet equipment arrived Saturday in Kiev from Starlink. Mayor Vitaly Klitschko showed off the equipment, which will help Ukrainian cities whose internet has been knocked out by Russian shelling. The number of Ukrainians seeking refuge in other countries could reach 1.5 million by the end of the weekend, the head of the UN Refugee Agency said Saturday, an increase from the 1.3 million who have fled. A Polish border guard guides people at the Ukrainian-Polish border crossing in Korksoa, Poland, March 5, 2022. Amin Awad, UN Crisis Coordinator for Ukraine, who is meeting in Ukraine with local and international officials, said in a statement Saturday that efforts are underway to urgently find operational modalities to scale up operations across lines and from outside into areas impacted by the conflict. VOA State Department Bureau Chief Nike Ching, National Security Correspondent Jeff Selden, Pentagon Correspondent Carla Babb, Istanbul Foreign Correspondent Heather Murdoch, White House Correspondent Anita Powell, and Senior Diplomatic Correspondent Cindy Sain contributed to this report. Some information for this report came from the Associate Press, Agence France-Presse, and Reuters.
以上で、今回のミーサチャンネルは終了です。最後までご視聴いただきましてありがとうございました。よろしければ高評価とチャンネル登録をよろしくお願いします。